Kendall, and I am the Deputy Public Affairs Officer here at the U.S. Embassy in Bridgetown. We're joined today with my colleague, Christina Paul, who is a consular officer here at the Embassy. Yep, and so as people go ahead, I see a couple viewers coming on in. So while I have the time, Christina, can you tell me how long you've been here in Barbados?
Yeah, I've been here since December of 2019, and so it's almost been 2 years on island.
Awesome. So because I just arrived here, I was wondering if you could kind of give me some tips or like what activities you like doing around the island?
Sure, I really enjoy going snorkeling, especially the shipwrecks in Carlisle Bay or up in the West Coast on Reeds Bay.
Okay, awesome. So I was previously serving in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So I'm just curious, where were you before coming here?
Before here, I was on another island nation, that was New Zealand.
Okay. All right. Well, as I see a couple people have joined us, let's go ahead. I just want to reintroduce myself. My name is Simone Kendall, and I'm the Deputy Public Affairs Officer here at the U.S. Embassy in Bridgetown. And we are joined today by my colleague, Christina Paul, who is a consular officer also at the U.S. Embassy. So as you all already know, today we'll be talking about the new vaccine and travel requirements to air travelers going to the United States. But I want to make sure the conversation centers around that. So we won't be really getting into too many visa questions today. But I know, Christina, you might be able to give us a little bit more insight just to touch base on kind of what the consular section is doing with visas right now.
Sure. At the moment, we aren't doing routine visa appointments. However, we are doing visas through our interview waiver program. And so with the interview waiver program, if you meet the criteria, which is on our website, bb.usembassy.gov, if you go to our visas page, you'll find the criteria for qualifying for the visa interview waiver. And the interview waiver process, if you qualify, you'll follow the prompts on your application. And if you qualify, at the end of your application, it will let you know whether you can be eligible to mail in your visa application into the embassy.
Okay.
And renew by mail.
That's good. I would prefer to do it by mail than having to come in person. All right. So we already have our first question. So under the new policy, who must be vaccinated? Who's got to be vaccinated, Christina?
So under the new policy, which begins on Monday, November 8th, all foreign travelers to the United States will need to be fully vaccinated for COVID-19. And that's all adults over the age of 18.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our next question is, which vaccines are accepted?
Sure. The vaccines that will be accepted for travel to the United States include all vaccines that are FDA approved and authorized, or also anything that has received emergency use authorization from the World Health Organization.
Okay, so we're looking for guidance primarily under WHO as well as FDA. All right. Okay, so let's see what other questions we have. All right. Is there a quarantine period in any state?
So for fully vaccinated travelers, there is no quarantine.
Okay, good to know. And so I guess because we've talked about the vaccinations, what kind of vaccines you need. Someone's asked, what does fully vaccinated mean?
So fully vaccinated, it depends on the vaccine that you receive. Some vaccines are 1 dose and some are 2 doses. And rather than get into the specifics of what the CDC considers fully vaccinated, we would like you to visit the CDC website. CDC has a great website for international travelers, and the information on what is considered fully vaccinated is available on that website.
That's awesome that the CDC is like a one-stop shop for getting out into the requirements. So Linnell asks, is AstraZeneca accepted for travel? Is the AstraZeneca vaccine accepted for travel?
Yes, the AstraZeneca vaccine is one of the vaccines listed on the World Health Organization emergency use list. So yes.
Good. All right. So Akila asked, for people who booked travel to the US and aren't fully vaccinated by the time of travel, what can those travelers do?
So there will be very limited exceptions to the vaccination rule. If you are not fully vaccinated by the time of your travel, you should probably postpone your travel. There will be very limited exceptions available, and guidelines and information on how to qualify for an exception will be on our website shortly.
That's good to know too. And I'm sure a lot of people, given that the holidays are coming up, are kind of in that similar situation where they're trying to figure out, like, am I prepared to go? So that's why we're really excited to be hosting this and have Christina here with us today. All right. So Anthea asks, how long after you had your second dose of a vaccine, she hasn't listed which one, can you travel to Barbados for a visa?
So for a visa appointment to travel to Barbados, I would refer to the visitbarbados.org website. Barbados has their own requirements, separate, from the US requirements. So if you're coming to Barbados for your visa interview, please go to visitbarbados.org and to look at the government of Barbados's guidelines for entering Barbados.
There we go. And excellent question, Anthea, too, because I know a lot of people are, as they prepare to get to the US and get those visas, they want to know what it means to come to Barbados to actually get through that visa interview appointment. But also, too, to highlight, I don't know if, Anthea, you were tuned in before, but Christina was talking about the interview waiver process, too. So you might also qualify for that. So you could check out the US Embassy website and just get more tips and information, too, just to see if you qualify. All right. All right, so JD asks, is a PCR test required before travel?
So the requirement for the United States will accept either PCR or the rapid antigen test. If you are fully vaccinated, you should take your PCR or rapid antigen test within 3 days of flying to the United States. So that means, for example, if you want to fly to the United States on December 19th, you should get your PCR or rapid antigen test no earlier than December 16th.
There we go. So it's exactly 3 days. No, like 72 hours.
It's not 72 hours. It's not 72 hours exactly. It is 3 days. So say you're flying at 10 p.m. You arrive in the U.S. at 10 p.m. on the 19th. You could take your test anytime after midnight on the 16th.
Okay, so you're covered. All right, Anil asked, is the home administered antigen test allowed?
So some home administered antigen tests are allowed. I refer you to the CDC website for international travel, and that will have more information on what types of home administered antigen tests will be allowed.
Yeah, and too, I think also with the airlines too, they might want to double check with their airlines. Is that, won't they be reviewing the documents as well?
Yes. And so there is no website in order to get clearance to enter the United States, such as we have here in Barbados or some of our other islands where you have to load up your vaccination or testing results prior to travel. The airline, when you check in for your flight to the United States, that's when they'll be checking your vaccination status and your test results.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Trisha asks, if I am traveling with children, do I still have to quarantine?
That's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that question, but I will refer you to the CDC website. The CDC International Travel page will have more information about that. But I do have some more information about the requirements for children.
Excellent.
So if a child is traveling, a child between the ages of 2 and 17 is traveling with fully vaccinated adults, their testing required, they will still need to test and have a negative COVID test. Their testing requirement is the same as a fully vaccinated adult, and that is 3 days before travel.
Okay. So similar to the adults. All right, we're getting the whole family prepared to be able to travel.
Yeah.
All right. So Micah asked, is Pfizer vaccine accepted for travel?
Yes,
All right.
definitely. The Pfizer vaccine has received full FDA approval in the United States, and the Pfizer vaccine is accepted for travel to the United States.
So that's exciting. I know everybody's asking the vaccine. So this is a popular question about the vaccines. And there was also a recent donation of Pfizer vaccines from the US to Barbados this week, as well as to Antigua and Barbuda. So that's exciting news. And hopefully those that want to be vaccinated and are interested in it are able to now. All right, so we can go ahead. Keep the questions coming too. We appreciate those too. So our next question comes from Maxine. Hi, Maxine. All right, upon arrival in the US, do I have to be quarantined at a hotel before going to the address at which I would be with my friends?
So the answer is no. If you are fully vaccinated, you do not need to quarantine,
Okay.
according to the CDC.
Okay. And I feel like a lot of these questions are kind of based off of people's experience within Barbados and
Right,
kind of trying to
correct.
navigate it. Yeah. All right. So Faz said, should I be vaccinated to go to Barbados for my US visa appointment? So they're doing their visa interview.
So for your visa interview at the embassy, you're non-immigrant. For a non-immigrant visa interview, you do not need to be vaccinated. However, if you are going for an immigrant visa, you should be vaccinated before you do your medical exam with our physician.
Okay, so twofold. We got the non-immigrant visas covered and those coming for the immigrant visa appointments too. All right, so the next question comes from Patricia. Patricia, thank you for your question. So, which vaccines are accepted to travel to the US? Are all vaccines accepted?
So, right now, the vaccines that are accepted for travel to the US are the FDA approved and authorized vaccines and also the WHO emergency use listed vaccines. Right now, I don't really want to get into which ones are accepted or not because that list does change. As more vaccines come online, as more vaccines go through the approvals process, there will be more vaccines added to the list, but the current list will be available on the CDC website.
There you go. And two, that way people can get the most up-to-date information because should anything change after today. All right, so Belfon asks, for kids under 11 with unvaccinated parents, will this child's visa be renewed?
So in order to renew your visa, you will not need to show any proof of vaccination for a non-immigrant visa.
Okay, so that's good to know. So yes, you're still able to come in for your appointment.
Yes, and still able to mail in for children under the age of 14. There is a process where you could mail in for a visa waiver, for a visa appointment waiver.
Okay, there we go. So no need to come in for an actual interview. They
Right.
just do it by
For
mail.
children under 13, yes.
There we go. All right, thank you. All right, so our next question is, do you need a PCR test before entering the US?
Yes. So you will need some sort of test, and that could be a PCR test or a rapid antigen test. Both of those are accepted.
Okay, so when people get to the airport, they're showing, when they get to the airport leaving whatever country they're leaving from, they'll need to have the negative PCR test.
Right. Negative PCR or rapid antigen.
There we go. And then they'll also need to show their
proof of vaccination.
There we go. All right. All right. So what should passengers provide to airlines to show that they are fully vaccinated?
So to show that you are fully vaccinated, you should have either a paper or a digital record issued by an official source, and it should include your name, your date of birth, as well as which vaccine you received and the dates that you were administered those vaccines.
There you go. All right. So another question we have, do I need to be vaccinated to enter the US?
So it depends who you are. From the perspective of if you are a foreign visitor or a immigrant for the first time entering the United States on an immigrant visa, yes, you will need to be vaccinated for COVID-19. And there will be very, very limited exceptions to this rule. US citizens and legal permanent residents, that is people who have green cards, do not need to be vaccinated to enter the US. However, for these folks, you're going to have to show proof of a negative COVID test, either PCR or rapid antigen, 1 day before traveling to the United States.
Yeah. And so like even for those specific situations, I think you were telling me about the CDC's quiz.
That's right. That is
Yeah,
right. So this CDC website for international travelers has a very handy quiz where you could answer, that will answer some of your questions as well. You could put in whether you are a foreigner, whether you are a US citizen, and your vaccination status, and it will tell you what the requirements are for you.
Okay. Which makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just click through and
Yeah,
get
click
the
through the
information you
quiz.
need. All right. Ramez asks, what about people with the Moderna full vaccination or full vaccines?
Sure. Moderna is on the list for the FDA approved vaccines.
All right. So far we're 3 for 3.
Yeah.
All the vaccines people have asked about have been on the list. All right. So Malax asks, if I recently got COVID, less than 60 days, do I still need to be vaccinated to enter the US?
So if you have recovered from COVID, you will, if you've had COVID in the past, you will need to be vaccinated to enter the United States. However, please talk to your doctor about when is the right time for you to receive that vaccine after recovering from COVID-19.
Okay. And good to hear you are in good health, Malax, too, as well. All right. So the next question is, who will need to present their vaccination status to airlines?
So everyone traveling to the United States should present their vaccination status, whether that is an immigrant, a legal permanent resident, US citizen, or a non-immigrant visitor to the United States. Again, those who are US citizens or green card holders will not be required to be vaccinated, but they will have different testing requirements to enter the US.
Okay. All right. So Angel, hi Angel, and thank you for your question. As a foreign visitor, how long is the quarantine period?
For a fully vaccinated visitor, there is no quarantine.
Easy enough. All right. So Becky's question is, are you guys taking appointments for January?
I believe we do have appointments for January already, but a lot of our visa appointments have already been full through the middle of next year.
Yeah. And Becky, too, you might want to check out the interview waiver process and see if you don't even have to worry about coming in for an appointment. All right. So Cecilia Rose asks, when will the embassy reopen the visa section for issuance of non-emergency visitor visas?
So as of right now, we are open for visa interview waiver visas. So we are still every day issuing non-immigrant visas for those who are eligible to renew by mail. At the moment, we are not doing routine appointments. I don't have any information on when we will reopen for routine appointments.
Here we go. Thank you. All right. So what are the changes for US citizens and green card holders within this new international travel system? You touched on some of them already, but let's just go ahead and review for some of our listeners again.
Sure. The testing requirement in place since January 26th has not changed for fully vaccinated US citizens and green card holders. The requirement we had since January was that everyone traveling to the United States had to have a negative COVID-19 test result 3 days before flying to the United States. That requirement has not changed for fully vaccinated individuals. The only requirement that has changed is that U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents, those are green card holders who are not vaccinated, will now need to present a negative COVID-19 test result 1 day before travel.
Okay. All right.
Ah.
So what does the visa waiver appointment, which I think you're referring to the interview waiver?
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. So for the interview waiver program, the guidelines for the interview waiver are on our website, bb.usembassy.gov, on the visas page. So when you go to our visas page, you'll be able to see what the criteria are. If you meet those criteria, then you will be eligible to mail in your visa renewal and not have to come into the embassy for an appointment.
All right. All right. So Malix is asking, does a foreigner have to visit the embassy for a medical visa?
So usually travel for medical reasons to the United States are under a B1, B2 visitor's visa. And so yes, if you have never applied for a US B1, B2 visa before, then you would need to come into the embassy for an appointment. If you do have an urgent medical need, there are instructions online on how to apply for an expedited appointment request if you do have an urgent medical need in the US.
Okay. I have a question too. Given that the holidays are coming up, we've talked a lot about the air travelers, but what about people who might be traveling by land per se, like crossing over Canada, maybe Mexico, or any of the closer land borders to the US?
Oh, sure. We also have a sea border between the US Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands as well.
More pertinent.
So for land and sea borders, the requirements for vaccination for foreigners is the same as for air travel.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's a good one too. So our next question comes from Melissa. And Melissa, thank you for your question. If you never had a US visa, do you have to come in for the interview?
Yes. So if you've never had a US visa before, you will have to come into the embassy for an interview appointment.
Okay, thank you. And you all are sneaking in these visa questions. But there is another question in terms of, we've talked a lot about vaccines and safe protocols. Will people have to still wear their masks
Yes.
when they're traveling to the US?
Yes, definitely. So there is a federal requirement across the United States that on all airplanes, all people, all travelers, including those who are vaccinated, will still need to wear masks on airplanes and comply with all social distancing and other safety protocols.
Yeah, so everybody stay safe out there. Keep your masks on, keep washing your hands, and let's all stay safe. So let's see what our next question is. All right. So where can we get more information, Christina? You've already highlighted so much, but where can we go to get more?
Sure. There are quite a few resources that we have available to you to answer more of your questions. And you can go to travel.state.gov. You may also visit the CDC website for international travel, which has a very handy quiz that will answer your questions about what requirements for travel to the US apply to you.
All right. So thank you so much, Christina, for giving us more insights on this new travel policy coming out and starting November 8th. So hopefully everybody is prepared and ready to get to their travels to the United States and aware of the new travel policy starting on Monday. So thank you all for tuning in. And thank you again, Christina.
Thanks,
you all have a
Simone.
wonderful afternoon.